politics and how it affects you. And I am sitting here this morning with Rodney Ramsey. He has been legal counsel for Ellis County Press for many years, since I think the mid-90s, right, Rodney?
Yes.
And you are an attorney in Waxahachie and in Ellis County. And you want to let people know today about some of your thoughts about the way the Governor Abbott, has overstepped his bounds with the executive order. Now, there's been a couple of executive orders, or no? Is there just one and they're sort of mending them?
Right, well, yeah, and it's not just him. There's several governors and local officials and county judges and a bunch of people that have overstepped their authority. Now,
Okay.
and don't get me wrong, I like the governor. I
Okay.
voted for the governor.
Okay.
So I wouldn't, condemn him for something, but I think that it's important that people realize that in this situation, everybody wants to do the right thing.
Sure.
Everybody wants to be helpful, and we all want to not cause a problem or get sick.
Right.
The section of the government code that they keep referring to, where he has the authority to control certain aspects of business and personal life, was actually designed for catastrophes, and it states it in the actual law: catastrophes, man-made or natural, and that was for hurricanes and tornadoes to restrict people from going into access into restricted areas, but never was it intended to be used to tell every business in Texas.
That this was a catastrophe, and I'm not, you know what I'm saying? And you're right. I don't think any time has every business in Texas been closed down because of a catastrophe.
Well, it's not, number one, it's an error. It even says in the law, in the affected area.
Okay.
So we know it was what it was designed for, but they needed something that they thought they could use to violate these constitutional rights that are established for everyone.
Okay.
You know, the governor has broad discretion, but what he doesn't have discretion on is he doesn't get to tell a court what to do.
Okay.
And he doesn't get to suspend laws as he's done. Only the legislature can affect the law.
Okay.
The governor has no authority to suspend the law.
Okay.
Okay. And he certainly doesn't have any authority to tell businesses that they have to shut down, because then you're getting into a taking. People are losing money, and the big problem is, at the end of the day, these things are supposed to require due process, which is notice and a hearing. None of that happened.
Right.
And under emergency declarations, from what I've read in the government code, they're only good for 72 hours. And then he has to reissue a new emergency declaration every 72 hours.
Why do you think people are allowing this if he's breaking the law? Why is the Senate, why is our senators, Texas senators, and our Texas House of Representatives allowing this?
Well, people want to do the right thing.
And I think it's an emotional thing now. It's like you're going to die if you don't do this, or you're going to cause somebody else to die of COVID-19. That's sort of what people have been saying to me. Is why they feel a little bit of guilt.
There is no science. The science in this has just been abused and overrated. And I'm not a doctor by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm not stupid either, and I do have an undergrad in the medical field. I worked in the medical field for 10 years.
It gives you something.
And, and the thing is, all of it started off nonsensical. When they produced the first bell curve, I almost lost my mind, because I thought, how can you produce a bell curve?
Yeah, let's talk about that surge and how you were saying earlier it could have been stopped a little bit. I think you were drawing. He was drawing something for me, and I wasn't sure if
you're going to do a bell curve, let's say you have to have a certain number of population. You have to have a number of people to begin with.
Okay.
There are factors, and then you have to say, okay, this percentage of people were infected and showed no symptoms. This percentage was infected and showed some symptoms, moderate symptoms, severe symptoms, and then died.
Okay.
And then you take the number and you do the math on how many of those there are, and then you can make the bell curve.
Okay.
Right? Where you can say the infection rate's going to go to this point, and this number of people are going to be infected. We didn't have any numbers. We didn't have any testing.
Okay.
So they generated a bell curve, which is fine. And the bell curve, I'll do a visual. It showed it here, and then it went way up, and it peaked, and they're like, oh my God, we don't want to peak because it's so many. Over here's the number of people, and down here's the amount of time. If it goes up here and peaks, this number of people are going to get it. Well, most likely that number of people are going to get it anyway.
Right.
So they started talking about flattening the curve.
Right.
Well, that's great, except the problem is, when you on a virus, if you flatten the curve, you extend the time.
Okay.
Because with the peak, it's allowed to run through the population, which is why it peaks.
Right.
And then it drops off because the people that are going to die from it. The ones that are going to get sick. It just, what it is that if you flatten the curve, what you've done is you've slowed the infection rate, but you haven't stopped it.
I see.
And
Okay.
that's the point that concerns me is the virus is not going to go anywhere. When you flatten the curve, instead of it being done in 30 days, it may take 6 months for it to peak and fall. And they should have instead said we have to have the children isolated, and we need to have the nursing homes isolated, the most susceptible people, and the rest of the people, let it run.
Right.
Because every time you go to the grocery store, there's no telling how many people have touched that loaf of bread.
I know.
And they say, well, it's only good for them.
Well, this seems very different than any other pandemic that we've ever seen, and at least in my lifetime, and I guess we're probably close to the same age, and it's just really, a lot of people are, and I'm not saying how I feel about this necessarily, but a lot of people are questioning it, like, why, I think that the publisher said that more people died last year in March than this year.
Right.
In the United States. Was that you that told me that? Or
No, it's, well, the numbers are there are several things that we have annually in this country that kill way more people than this.
Okay,
than this
I keep saying tuberculosis because that kills people, and it's a pandemic.
Well, there's like 6 or 7 million people that die from complications from obesity every year. So the difference is, back when I was a kid, I'm sure you're not as old as I am, but when I was a kid, and neither one of us are as old as Charlie.
Right.
When I was a child, measles, right?
Right.
Well, they just throw everybody together so everybody catch measles.
Right.
And the purpose for that was to expose the herd. I keep saying that. That's what's the terminology. You expose everybody to it, they get it, and it's gone.
Right.
It peaks and it's gone.
Okay.
In this one, we have said everybody stay away from each other, nobody touch each other, right? And it can slow the spread of the virus, but the virus is still being transmitted. It's just being transmitted at a slower rate, which means that it's going to extend in time. There's a lot of people that are a lot smarter than I am that are working on this.
Well, I do wonder why it seems to be that, I mean, I realize people are dying, and I think over the weekend there was 85,000 people in the world that somehow got this coronavirus in 24 hours, which was almost mind-boggling to me. It was from the World Health Organization. But I don't know. I don't know what made this different.
The media.
Okay, and not me.
No.
Not me.
No.
I will say yesterday, actually, that the media already went on and they said there's going to be a problem. You know, like, it's almost warning people to already get upset about something before we even know. Media is supposed to be telling you the facts, you know, unless you're an editorial, which hopefully the news media is not. So
the problem is it's going to turn out, it wouldn't have been as bad as they anticipated, and they may have continued it by telling everybody to stay away from each other, because people are still going to get sick, because you can't. The only way you can avoid that is total isolation and quarantine every person in their own home and let nobody go anywhere.
But then you can't even be around your family.
You couldn't be around anybody.
I mean, it doesn't make any sense. I went to the store the other day and to buy some provisions, and people wouldn't even look in my eyes. I'm like, people, it's not like I'm not going to get it if you look at me. I won't give it to you. You know, it's like, I don't know if they're embarrassed about their behavior or if they're just, everybody's just so in shock at what it's like a zombie apocalypse.
Well, if you think about it, it's 1 to 2% of the people that contract the disease are going to die.
And that's sad. That's sad, but we're all going to die, I think, at some point, someday. I hope that's what the truth is.
Well, everybody dies. I think they're going to find out that there's a certain, I don't know if it's genetic or what it is, but there's going to be some genetic situation that's going to cause a certain percentage of people to die from this disease. And the others are going to get it and recover.
Too, on another show.
Yep.
And that, I think that was more, they were testing that and doing that more in China. But I'm not even really convinced that China has, like, no cases. I mean, I've been to China a number of times. They don't always tell the truth. We have 1 minute, Rodney.
Well,
I'm sorry.
I think that the response has been blown way out of proportion by the national news media. I voted for President Trump. I'm a Republican, and I think this is the first time in his presidency that he's allowed the media to control the narrative. And they have brought in scientists. You put 10 scientists in a room and they're all highly intelligent and educated, you'll have
you're totally
8 or 9, 10 different opinions by the time whatever the subject matter's over with.
Okay, Rodney, thank you for your opinion today because we have no time. I'm Rita Cook. You're Rodney Ramsey. Thank you so much. We are ECP-TV's Politics and How It Affects You.